more motivated for retribution are they? You got to imagine pretty substantially, right? You got to imagine they definitely feel that. That's definitely flowing in them right now. I think you got to assume that's probably true. So I agree with Jim here on this. There's probably a high level of focus for this team right now, and that's one of the reasons why Kirby Smart, I think, and we're going to do this off the top of the show in a moment, make that contrast between Georgia and Florida. One of the reasons why Kirby Smart's currently pushing the buttons that he's pushing is just related to the fact that the mindset that this Georgia team is currently approaching the season with is as valuable a weapon as anything it does physically. I truly believe that. And how you conjure that up daily during practice, how you conjure that up daily during the meetings, right, the team meetings, how you do that then, I think, sets you up to play well on Saturdays and is just as valuable as any of the potential physical components for this team right now. So that's one of the things I believe that Georgia truly has going for it right now. Dog in Asheville, Chris, checking in to say, good morning, Dog Nation. Happy Friday. Appreciate that. Glad to have you here, Chris. Mike Q says, I was dreaming about the game last night. We were running all over them early. That sounds like a pretty good dream. Jermaine King says, that's my second favorite shirt, BA. My first favorite is the Mullen Clown shirt. Yeah, I love that one there as well from our friends over at 76 Apparel. They do a great job with that. And some folks have actually given that to me as a gift. You better believe there's a chance that may come out in Jacksonville at some point in time here this weekend. Good job by them on that. A lot of fun related to some of that kind of stuff, the Gator Hater paraphernalia and everything else. That's always a great time. Dan's a Clown says Dan's costume is going to be a hot seat, and heard Todd Grantham's going to be dressed as a lame duck. That's very funny from Dan as a Clown. Yeah, I could see Grantham dressed up as a lame duck on his way out, maybe as the Florida defensive coordinator. That's all really funny. Brad Hotton says, on the phone app, when I hit live broadcast, all that comes up is Connor in coverage. I apologize for that, Brad. We'll see if we can check in on that and see what's going on there. Hopefully everything's okay with that. Jim McLaughlin also says he loves seeing Florida fans predicting a Florida win. Yeah, that'll give you an idea of how things are setting up on Saturday, that even the Florida fans themselves, on the basis of the fact that right now a lot of them appear to be dressed as empty seats for Halloween there on that particular day. Not maybe showing up in Jacksonville, in other words, but also not really thinking their team's going to have a great chance to win. That may be all you need to know about the current state of all of this, and that is really... All right, so what I'm hearing is that if you log out of the app and jump back in, or basically restart the app, that may give you a chance to see that they're on video. So that's what I'm being told by people who know more about this, technically speaking, than I do. So Georgia and Olive welcoming back Eddie. I love to see that. And a lot of great comments. We'll continue to get those as we roll through our show here today. Also, a ton of great golden shoes. If you're just joining us, Herschel Walker is going to be on the program today talking about his memories of Georgia, Florida, his thoughts on Jordan Davis, what he believes about this Georgia football team in comparison to the team that he was a part of in 1980, the last one from Georgia to win a national championship. That's all great stuff. Jeff Santel talking UGA recruiting. We are, as you would expect, fully loaded on this Gator Hater Countdown Day 1. Dogs and the lousy stinking Gators tomorrow. Let's talk about how we think it unfolds as DawgNation. By the way, are we on all the platforms here? Because I almost jumped ahead there. Are we on all of them yet? All right, we're going to get on all of them. It's a pre-snap penalty, right? I mean, I'm almost jumping right into the show and getting ready to go. So let me welcome in Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all the video platforms. Almost started the show without you. So exciting. So excited. I am right there in that starting block, ready to just shoot out today. Cut the energy with a knife here in the studio. We are so ready to be big-time Gator haters in Jacksonville tomorrow. So let's get it locked in. Let's get it ready to go. Glad you're with us. It's DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans. It's presented by Kroger, and it begins right now.
Today's episode of DawgNation Daily is brought to you by Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Presented by DawgNation.com. This is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans. Here's your host, Brandon Adams.
Coming up on our show in just a few minutes' time, we're going to have actually a really cool moment. I'm going to ask the 1982 Heisman Trophy winner, Herschel Walker, if he thinks that Jordan Davis ought to win the award in 2021 based on what he has meant to the Georgia defense thus far. I believe you're going to like Herschel's answer. We'll do that here in a couple of minutes' time as Herschel Walker joins us here on DawgNation Daily, presented by Kroger here today. Before that, though, let me begin this way. I don't think it's very difficult to notice right now. There seems to be an incredibly different vibe around the Florida program than exists around Georgia. And this matters to me. Somebody last night on Cover 4 Live, I was looking at the comment sections and we were talking about something, and somebody said, BA, I think you're delving too much into pop psychology on this. Well, I don't know about that. I'm not very smart, so I don't know that I'm too qualified to delve into anything, like that. Not even really sure I know what pop psychology even really is. However, I do know this, and anybody who's ever accomplished anything in life knows this as well, that mindset is almost as important as anything physically. That to get yourself in the right frame of mind, to get yourself in kind of the right flow state, the right rhythm, is just as important as anything you're going to do physically. So when you look at the Georgia players, you look at the Florida players, one of the reasons why Georgia is a 2-touchdown favorite in this game is because Georgia physically has the better players. They're just more talented. Deeper roster, more capable players, and that's been the thing that Dan Mullen's been deficient at for his entire time being at Florida. It's one of the things that Kirby Smart has excelled at. That's the reason why folks expect Georgia to win on Saturday. But don't discount this. Don't discount the degree to which the other thing that Georgia has going for it is a high degree of belief right now, a high degree of buy-in right now. Smart's used that word a lot. Hey, what do you think about your defense? Well, I love their buy-in. He said that something to that effect the other day. In other words, it's not just their physical capabilities, it's their willingness to work together. It's their willingness to strive and to strain. It's their willingness to share glory, share attention, and allow the team to be big and themselves potentially smaller. And you don't necessarily see that other places all the time. Frankly, I'm not quite so sure you see that at Florida very much. And going to this game on Saturday, I think Georgia fans will get themselves a little bit of a chuckle at this. So Jacob Copeland's a Florida wide receiver, and he's doing one of those, I guess, like Q&A type things on his Instagram story or whatever. I guess the actual image here was the thing that appears in his Instagram story, and somebody had asked him a question, and Copeland, the Florida receiver, gave a very honest answer. Can we show this on the screen, Jacob Copeland? Let's see if we've got the Copeland deal here. Yeah, so this is from his Instagram story. I saw the Barstool UGA account shared this. So what he's asked is if he has any regrets about coming to Gainesville. And Jacob Copeland says, yeah, kind of. That's not exactly what you want to hear. One of your most important offensive players saying going into a rivalry game. Now, I get it. Florida's lost 3 times, and I get there's a little bit of a weird mood around the Florida program right now. But can you imagine a Georgia player saying this going into a game against Florida I sort of have some regrets about even coming to UGA? That's not exactly the mindset you want to create going to a game like this. And by the way, doesn't it seem like Florida always has guys going rogue on social media? Like, I'm not really quite so sure what it is about that program. I'm talking about going back over the years, going back predating Dan Mullen, even to like the Jim McElwain era. You've always got these Florida players who just kind of going rogue on social media. Now, maybe that's just freedom of speech and they're just allowed to say what they want to say. Maybe that's all that is. But, man, it doesn't create the world's best vibes, does it? And, I had a few Georgia fans even share that with me. I think it's pretty funny. And I think Georgia fans going to get kind of a chuckle out of that too. But let me be serious, though, for just a second. It's hard work to prevent some of that kind of stuff from happening. Guys thinking about themselves, guys thinking about what's best for them, guys thinking about the grass potentially being greener in a transfer portal, or just maybe having some regrets about making the original college choice they made. It is very, very easy to allow that to kind of fester into a program. The way I kind of think about this is this. Team chemistry is really hard to build, but it is very easy to break. One thing goes wrong, one moment of adversity, and it's very easy to have people either physically jumping ship or certainly mentally and spiritually just jumping ship away from a program. That's why I think Georgia should be commended this season for, in the midst of a run that right now has the Bulldogs ranked number 1 in the country, and who knows where it goes from there, but thus far the results have been really good. I think this UGA coaching staff and the players themselves, the players who are leaders in this team, the players who are young and trying to figure out what Georgia culture is all about and trying to match that culture with their own behavior, I think there's something you got to give Georgia a lot of credit for its own ability to kind of avoid the players going on Instagram saying, I have regrets about choosing this school. Players, kind of thinking about themselves as opposed to the team goal. Team that's now lost 3 times in Florida. All of a sudden you got guys wondering, is this even really the place for me? Georgia is doing a pretty good job avoiding that, even though there's the potential for things to creep into the program that could divide, that could cause people to want to think about themselves, that could cause people to want to roll their eyes at the whole idea of buying into a team concept. Let me give you 2 quick examples of this. Example 1 involves the quarterback position. We know that there's, and Terrence Edwards has said this in the program with us the last 2 weeks. We know there is nothing that has the potential to, and the word that Terrence has used is divide. There is nothing that has the potential to divide a team more than something going on at quarterback. A split locker room of some guys think this guy should be playing, other guys think this guy should be playing. That's one of the most toxic things you can deal with in a football team. And so Kirby Smart this year, I think, has been really quite deft at how he has avoided that, even though Georgia's gone through some quarterbacking weirdness, right? If you want to go back before the start of the season, Kirby Smart made it very clear that JT Daniels was the starting quarterback because of the way that Daniels had played when he was inserted into the lineup at the end of last season. Yet it was also pretty clear from the early going of this season that Daniels wasn't 100%, that he was dealing with a lingering muscle injury. I guess it started off as an oblique, and then it became a lat, and I'll let medical people tell me how related those things are, but some muscle pain has prevented Daniels from throwing pain-free, which certainly seems like has prevented him from making all the throws he needs to make if he wants to be Georgia's starting quarterback. And so that's a real dilemma for a program to deal with when your starting quarterback's not available. But lo and behold, you put in Stetson Bennett, and Stetson Bennett really raises his level of play and maintains a high level of performance for Georgia. So all of a sudden, the Georgia offense is actually humming along about as well as you thought it might, especially given the fact they've also dealt with a bunch of wide receiver injuries. And the unique surprise of all this is the Bulldogs are riding high with a guy as the backup quarterback playing in the starting role, and that's not the kind of thing that anybody could have predicted. Now you get ready to move into the game on Saturday against Florida. Now the starting quarterback's ready to return. So who do you play? Do you play the guy that was the start at the beginning of the season? Do you play the guy that's been playing well as of late? Do you play the guy that has the more substantial credentials, former 5-star, everything else? Do you play the guy that maybe doesn't quite have the sterling list of credentials, but hard to tell that based on the way that he's playing? That's the kind of thing that could cripple some teams. That's the kind of thing that could cause a lot of players to start thinking about themselves as opposed to what's important to buy in for the team. But Smart seems to be handling this very well. In fact, let me go back to Tuesday for a moment. Smart talking about the way in which these snaps during practice are going to be divided up. How many does JT Daniels get? How many does Stetson Bennett get? How can you get even 2 quarterbacks ready to go? Well, from Smart's perspective, doesn't actually seem like that's much of a problem for him, even though it's the kind of thing that to the outside world almost gets viewed as controversial. This is what Smart said on Tuesday.
Between the 1s and the 2s reps, you can get plenty of reps for 2 quarterbacks. Our 1s get a little more than our 2s, but you can go 50-50, you can go 70-30, you can go 60-40. We prescribe that as the week goes on. And the combination of Stetson and JT is to get them both prepared because there are 2 quarterbacks right now.
So when you hear Smart say that, there's, I believe, a little bit of an unspoken subtext to all of this, which is if we divide the practice snaps up, whether it's 50-50, 60-40, or however they end up getting divided, and then divide the game snaps up kind of based on what you've seen during practice, all of a sudden we're handling this in kind of a logical way. And all of a sudden when we ultimately maybe make a choice of playing one quarterback more so than the other, or playing one quarterback the majority of time, the other quarterback the lesser majority of the time, the idea that's going to divide the football team and tempt certain players to go running to Instagram the way that Jacob Copeland, the Florida wide receiver, apparently did this week. The idea that's going to happen for UGA is just a lot less likely to occur because all of this is playing out in the open. And for a guy like JT Daniels, who I am still a big believer in, I don't care how well Stetson Bennett's played, the truth is I'm still a very big believer in JT Daniels as well. I think that Daniels still has great potential to have some great moments here this season. I believe there was a reason that Daniels was named the starting quarterback before the season began. But I also believe this. Daniels is not the only player on this Georgia roster with some credentials. He's not the only player on this Georgia roster that has a little bit of a big, bold print reputation. A lot of players on both sides of the ball are also former 5-stars there as well. And so for those guys who are grinding and scratching and clawing and fighting in practice each and every day, frankly, what they want to see is the quarterback doing the same thing. They want to see the quarterback having to come back on the field and earn his job the same way they have to earn their job each and every day. They don't want to see, no one's going to say this publicly. It's not the kind of thing that gets talked about, but it's the kind of thing from a subtext standpoint you just kind of understand. They want to see quarterback treated the same way all the other positions are there too. And so that's exactly what Kirby Smart is doing. And that's exactly the kind of thing that I think contributes to a positive level of team chemistry that makes the situation at Georgia different potentially than the situation at Florida. But let me give you one more example of this. And so many of y'all have been so good to share this with me. Obviously, we have worked really hard around here to try to get the idea of Jordan Davis as a Heisman Trophy candidate. We have worked really hard to try to get that into the universe. We've used the hashtag JDNYC. Y'all have been so cool as to do this, to get that hashtag out there, to share this yourself, and really kind of push this from a media standpoint. And I don't think there's any doubt this is working. I don't think there's any doubt that right now this is growing in stature to the point where in the story that was this week at ESPN.com, and at one point in time it was like right there above the fold at the top of the ESPN college football homepage. Great story from David Hale, knows the Georgia program pretty well, used to cover the team going back years ago. But in the story that David Hale wrote about Jordan Davis, there was one sentence I want to pull out and highlight here because, first of all, it speaks to the way in which the hashtag JDNYC campaign is growing. But then I kind of want to make another point about this that sort of circles back to what we've been saying before about Georgia pushing for a better version of team chemistry than maybe what Florida has. Let me read you the David Hale quote here for a moment. So this is what Hale says about Jordan Davis. There's serious Heisman buzz for Jordan Davis now, not because of the numbers on his stat sheet, which are pedestrian, but from the sheer spectacle of his play. First of all, that's a great sentence, well written by Hale. But don't you love to hear the phrase serious Heisman buzz? This is no longer a joke. This is no longer a hype man doing a social media campaign. This is a real thing that now the entirety of the national media has kind of taken hold of. That Davis has actually arrived on the scene with a chance to further that Heisman resume on Saturday. I think all of that is really cool. But let me stay on topic at the topic at hand. So if what we're talking about here is, hey, Florida from a team chemistry standpoint going in one direction, players kind of playing for themselves, going on social media and saying they regret even choosing Gainesville. Georgia going in a different direction where everybody seems to be adopting a team-first mentality, even the quarterbacks themselves competing with each other, sharing time with each other. The Georgia defense, which has been so sterling all season long, they're doing that too. The number one reason we've named Davis as the most likely Heisman contender off this Georgia defense is because of what he represents symbolically. And the story that David Hale writes at ESPN.com furthers that idea even more. Let me give you just one quick example of this. So Davis has a story about him winning the Heisman Trophy. Now think about that, how cool that'd be to have that about you. But at the very end of the story, there's this thing that comes up of, well, can you even win the Heisman Trophy if you're not really on the field for every down? If you're not on the field on third down, can you really win the Heisman Trophy? And they talk in the story about how Davis on third down typically gives way to Jalen Carter, and that's when Jalen Carter comes in the game. Well, guess what Jordan Davis does? He's quoted for this story at ESPN.com about Jalen Carter, and guess what he does? He says, I love Jalen Carter, and I absolutely believe that Jalen Carter is more valuable than me for Georgia on third down right now. In other words, given the case to make the case for him, given the chance to make a case for himself, Jordan Davis chooses not to do that. Given the chance to argue for why he ought to be the Heisman Trophy winner and explain why that he could be on the field on third down, he's just not. He says, nah, third down's not the down for me. He says, my job is to get to third down. It's Jalen Carter's job then to come in and do the big things on third down. That's the kind of attitude, the kind of chemistry that Georgia has working for itself as a program right now. That matters. In contrast to Florida, the team the Dog's going to beat up on Saturday, and in contrast to every team it's going to play the rest of the season. Now, listen, at some point in time, adversity may strike. It may not always be a perfect cakewalk through the rest of the season the way that it mostly has been thus far. But pay attention to this going into Saturday. This is a pretty special time to be a UGA fan. This team is not only winning games, it's also fun to watch, and I believe really fun to cheer for, because whether it be quarterbacks, right now JT Daniels and Stetson Bennett are sharing some time with each other, defense, the most dominant unit in the country, where everyone's sharing glory, everyone's sharing attention, and everyone's having to share their spot on the stat sheet. Right now at Georgia, no one seems to have a problem with that. I remember the old days of Dogs football, back when Vince Dooley and Irk Russell had the big team, little me t-shirts. You remember those? That was always kind of a cool thing for Georgia football in the past. Well, that idea first expressed back then, it seems to be really, really a foundational belief for this Georgia team right now. Notice that on Saturday. Notice how that makes Georgia different than Florida, and we believe that's a big reason why the Dogs get a big win coming up on Saturday. My name's Brandon Adams, and this is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans. We're presented by Kroger, and we're glad to have you with us, no matter how you get to us today, live on video, 10 a.m., Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Radio Noon, Athens Sports Radio 960 The Rap, podcast, all of the various podcast platforms. We're just happy to have you as a part of the show. It's obviously a lot of fun to be doing this with you each and every day, and a big thanks to our friends at Kroger, for making all of this possible. Obviously, we've been having a lot of fun with Kroger here over the course of the last couple of weeks, getting ready for Halloween. And listen, we've been stocked up before on decorations and candy. I think some of my kids have probably eaten so much of our candy, we're going to have to go back and get a refill on that to get ready for Sunday. A lot of trick-or-treaters. Different neighborhoods have more trick-or-treaters than some. We've always had a lot of trick-or-treaters at our house, and so we're going to get stocked up on all that candy and everything else we need there at Kroger. And you can do the same thing, whether it's stopping by in-store to see what's happening there at Kroger and take advantage of some great savings, especially as you lead up to the final days before Halloween. A great time to be shopping at Kroger. Or if you just want more details about this, start your shopping experience online. Some people still like to do that. It's Kroger.com/Halloween for more on that. The website to go to, Kroger.com/Halloween. And you can get going with all of that today. Appreciate Kroger being a part of our program here. So we've obviously got a lot to do in the program today. It's Jeff Sintel coming up in just a little bit. A lot on UGA recruiting with Jeff, including an update on former Florida commit, four-star linebacker Shamar James, who recently decommitted from the Gators. We'll talk about Julian Humphrey, a four-star defensive back, who's also recently decommitted from the Gators, and just how involved is Georgia in these two recruitments, and could Georgia really make those lousy, stinking Gator fans feel even worse about themselves by winning some of these recruiting battles before National Signing Day arrives. We'll let Jeff tell us about that coming up in a moment. Before that, though, very special treat on our program. And I mentioned the Jordan Davis interview article at ESPN.com a moment ago. I think when you look at some of the politics behind a story like this, I think you start to get the impression that maybe quietly Georgia's even more okay than they're letting on with the notion that Davis ought to be pushed as a Heisman Trophy contender. We're doing that here. It's great to see the national media kind of taking the baton on that and now doing their own version of that there as well. We think it's justified, and as we've said a million times before, it's not just because of what Davis is as a player. It's also for what he represents for this Georgia defense, which has been the most dominant unit in the entire country, and doing it with a team-first attitude, buying into the notion that no one player is any bigger than any other, although Davis is literally bigger than everybody, but no one player from a reputational standpoint is necessarily bigger than another. They're all willing to share the glory, share the stats, share the success that comes on the other end of all that. So today on our program, as we go around the doghouse, delivered by Marco's Pizza, we get a chance to ask someone who knows, someone who himself has a Heisman vote, the 1982 Heisman winner, Herschel Walker, about Jordan Davis. Should he win the award? Herschel's got some great things to say about that. He also talks about his own memories of playing against Florida. He talks about the national championship season he was a part of and whether he thinks a similar goal could await this current Georgia team. This is great stuff from Herschel Walker here around the doghouse, delivered by Marco's Pizza. Hope you enjoy it. And here on DawgNation Daily and around the doghouse, delivered today by Marco's Pizza, it is great to have the 1982 Heisman Trophy winner from the Georgia Bulldogs, Herschel Walker, here in our program. And Herschel, you've obviously got a lot going on in your life right now. For the most part, we'll leave that for another show to discuss. But obviously, I am so curious to find out your thought about these Georgia Bulldogs right now. You obviously won a national championship at Georgia in 1980, and this is a team in pursuit of that goal right now there as well. What have you thought about these dogs that you've seen on the field thus far this season?
Well, I've been happy to see them play, And, I feel, and I said it publicly, I think these dogs here look like they can win it all. These dogs here, I feel, are a better team than we were in 1980. The defense is absolutely incredible. They're very rounded on offense as well, and they're having a lot of fun. And when you see a team out having fun, a team that loves to play, they look forward to the Saturdays because they love to play. That's when you know that they're going to go a long way.
How important is that mindset for a championship team? I mean, obviously you got to be a talented player to win it all, and you got to have talented teammates. But it seems like, and go back to 1980 for you guys. You had to pull some games out. You had to fight late to win some of those, and team chemistry, mindset, all of that kind of seems to play into that. I mean, how important is that as kind of a part of the championship formula?
That's very important. Everyone on that team got to believe in each other. They got to believe that they can't lose. They got to all want to go out there and play because that's one of the most important things. But most of all, everybody got to know that it's the team first, and then it's me. I think that's the model that they seem to have, and it seems everybody wants to play. And I said that's the reason they got to get a team. Everybody want to make big plays. Everybody want to be a part of it. And that shows that team that everyone likes to see play, and everyone look forward to seeing that defense get out there, and then look forward to seeing the offense. And it's so important that you can switch players and you never lose anything. It seems like those players, if one come in, it's just as good as the other. And I think you got to give credit to the coaching staff, to the Coach Smart, for their recruiting and for the players that are put it on the field. And it has an incredible team.
This is obviously one of those weekends that Georgia fans have circled when the calendar year begins. You're thinking about being in Jacksonville, where it's been always known as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. It's also the site of some very big games for you, going back to your time as a player, the unforgettable 1980 game, but also some dominant performances in 81 and 82. When you think back on Georgia, Florida, and Jacksonville, the history of this rivalry, your own role in some of that, I mean, what do you remember about playing in Jacksonville against that hated rival, the Florida Gators? What sticks out in your mind about that?
Well, it's always going to be a tough game, even though we scored a lot of points and we dominated it. The first year, it was a very close game with the Lindsey Scott, go Lindsey Scott, and the things after that, we dominated. But I think people have seen that every time there's a Georgia-Florida game, you got to go into that game ready to play. You never know what's going to happen. And it's going to be a test for the Dogs. I think, I love the Dogs. I think so many people love the Dogs. We got to remember, Florida's a good team. Florida's just not going to lay down. They're a team that's going to lay down. And it's sort of like playing a bowl game in between the seasons. So everybody wants to go out and play well, and, being so close, there's that rivalry there that we got to take very serious. It doesn't matter about your record when you go into that game. This win-loss is removed. Right now, you got that playing against a team that feels they can beat each other. So it is going to be another great game. I think this is another big task for Georgia to take that next step. Even though I may say that the best team in college football, a lot of people are saying that, but it's got to be proven. It's got to be proven tomorrow. It's got to be proven right then on Saturday that they can go out and they can win this game.
All right, as a former Heisman Trophy winner, I need to get your insight on something, if you don't mind. Around here, and you talked about the Georgia defense a moment ago, and we've been of the belief that the guy that's really kind of been the leader for that Georgia defense this year has been the nose tackle, Jordan Davis. I know this is an unorthodox thing, and obviously maybe in a normal year it'd be harder to make this push, but we've really been of the belief that a guy like Jordan Davis ought to get some consideration for the Heisman Trophy, but first of all, because a defensive player should be in discussion for this award more often than it currently is. Kirby Smart himself is going to echo that. And you've also seen some national media start to get behind this a little bit as well. There was an article at ESPN.com, for instance, this week about the idea that maybe in a little bit of an unorthodox year, a guy like Jordan Davis as the leader of a Georgia defense, when the Georgia defense has been probably the best unit in the entire country thus far this season, that a guy like that ought to get some Heisman Trophy consideration. Well, Herschel, you've got the trophy. You are a Heisman Trophy winner. What would you think about the possibility that maybe in a season like this, someone like Davis ought to be in the discussion for this award?
Well, you're exactly right. I get to vote. And I must say, because of that defense is so good, you say, man, who do you give the Heisman Trophy to on that defense? And he seems to be the leader. He's the one that everyone talks about. You see him you see him show up every game. You know, and not only you talking about the defense, but you talking about on the special team.
Yeah.
You know, he's been part of the blocking field goals as well.
Yep.
And people are talking about this guy. You know, one thing that's very special, you know, he could have came out last year, probably went into the pros. He stayed in school to come back. That means a great deal to what it means to this defense. And you know, yeah, maybe someone else maybe the captain calling the play, but whenever you talk about this defense, you're going to talk about him. So I think that he's someone that you got to consider that got a chance for the Heisman, because when you look around the league right now, who is out there that's playing well like he's playing to get the Heisman? And he got to be in consideration of it.
No, I think that's a very strong statement. We'll finish with this. Obviously, for your own trip to New York City, it's one of those things that so many people have, great memories of. For you yourself, getting a chance to be up there, win the award. What was that like when you think back on your own time as, going up to New York City to receive that award and all the fanfare that accompanied you there in New York? What do you remember about that?
Well, I was just so honored. I was honored so much, coming from right here, Georgia, a small town here in South Georgia, and, being at the University of Georgia, and I was honored, but at the same time, I was humbled because I was on such a great team. I had a great team, and, my offensive line, and I tell people this today, I'm still just so appreciative of that offensive line I had, and I'm sort of embarrassed now, and I've been saying this for a long time. I have been shocked that over the 3 years I was at Georgia, the things I did at Georgia, awards that I won at Georgia, I didn't have an offensive lineman to make All-American.
Wow.
And I'm sad about it, and I think about that now more than anything because, I'm still so close friends with those guys. Those guys gave me a Heisman Trophy. And, the team gave me a Heisman Trophy. And so it's not Herschel Walker Heisman. It's my team Heisman because we won that together. It wasn't just me. It was a great offensive line that blocked. They blocked that tail off for me. And I still thank them. Every time I see them, I thank them for what they've done for me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's always a great pleasure to talk football with you, your career, what's happening with these Georgia Bulldogs right now. So much terrific insight and all of that. Enjoy the weekend here, and hopefully here on DawgNation Daily and around the Doghouse, delivered by Marco's Pizza. We'll get a chance to talk to you again very soon.
Hey, thank you, man. God bless you guys. Go Dogs.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. All right, that is Around the Doghouse, delivered by Marco's Pizza with Herschel Walker. And I guess there was audio issues going out on the video platforms there. Super disappointing. You're like taking the good mood, in a great mood. You lead up the great interview. Boy, that good mood gone just like that. So our apologies for that. But Around the Doghouse, delivered by Marco's Pizza. And as you're getting ready for some big-time stuff here this weekend, obviously. Baseball tonight, high school football with us on Peachtree TV, rolling into Jacksonville tomorrow, obviously the pro football on Sunday. Nothing goes better with all of this than Marco's Pizza because it's real authentic flavor. I'm talking about old-world toppings on top of a golden brown crust, baked perfectly every time. The three cheeses blended and melted together just perfectly. It's a great flavor, which matters to me. I want food that tastes good, but I also want food that comes at a great price, and that is what Marco's Pizza provides. And currently, you can get a large one-topping pizza for just $9.99. Good deal on that. Large one-topping pizza, just $9.99. So check out Marcos.com or the Marcos app for more on that. And of course, check us out for our DawgNation postgame show tomorrow as we give you the Marco's Pizza moment of the game. That's all coming up tomorrow. Around the Doghouse, delivered by Marco's Pizza there. All right, we will get Jeff Sintel here. We'll talk to him about everything related to UGA recruiting, all of the stuff, whether it be Shamar James or everything else going on with UGA recruiting. We'll get all of that coming up with Jeff Sintel here in a couple of minutes, and we'll try to see if we can get back in a better mood before the show is done with a whole bunch of really fun, cool golden shoes today. Y'all have outdone yourselves, and I've tried to get as many onto the screen as I possibly can. I told you before I was getting very close to declaring some version of social media bankruptcy just because I'd gotten so much good stuff and probably more than I could certainly share over the course of a week's time here. So that will be a fun way to kind of close things out. Also, a couple of interesting stories from around the rest of the SEC here that we'll kind of dive into before we're done here today there as well, including, you heard, I think one of our commenters earlier mention a piece that Mike Griffiths got up at DawgNation.com with Steve Spurrier, what he thought about Georgia. Also, a pretty blunt assessment of the current state of Florida, which I think matters going to the game on Saturday. A little bit of a hot take about the LSU situation, and David Pollack weighs in maybe kind of a surprising fashion about how the SEC championship is going to unfold there too. So We'll cover all of that before our show is done today. But for now, on everything related to UGA recruiting, busy time here for the 2022 class. Let's get it ready to go on the road, assisted by AAA with Jeff Sintel right now.
From Athens and across the SEC or wherever the recruiting trail may lead, here's a DawgNation.com insider.
And this is actually a very appropriate time to be on the road, assisted by AAA with Jeff Sintel, because we will literally be on the road together this weekend, heading towards Jacksonville together after being up at Mill Creek tonight for a terrific high school football game between Collins Hill and Mill Creek on the road, and thankful to have AAA with us as we do that there as well. And Jeff, thankful to have your recruiting insight here right now. And obviously the mood today is about beating up on those lousy, stinking Gators and mocking them for everything that we can. And one of the things that's pretty easy to mock Florida for right now, just some recent disasters on the recruiting trail. Dan Mullen was pressed on the issue of recruiting with his press conference on Monday. We thought that was kind of cool to see him squirming, getting some tough questions about what he did during the bye week. But also, over the course of the last couple of weeks, Florida's lost its two highest-rated commits, Shamar James, the linebacker, Julian Humphrey, the defensive back. Let's start with James because you got a story up with him at DawgNation.com. What do you make of maybe Georgia trying to get in here on a guy like James, who up until recently was a Florida committee? He does hail from the state of Alabama, so you got to keep that in mind. But what do you think of the Shamar James situation at the moment?
Everybody, happy road trip, and like my man B.A. said, Brendan, I think this is a little different. He grew up in Alabama. It's Mobile, which sometimes that area lends itself to Florida Gators or LSU Tigers as much as it does Tide and Auburn. The thing is, he also didn't grow up a fan of either Tide or Tigers, which kind of maybe neutralizes the tug in state when you're talking about those two SEC West programs. But for me, I mean, this is what I wrote about Brandon. I thought he had one of the most mature and pointed reasonings, rationales for decommitting from the Gators, and it had nothing to do with mullets or jean shorts or lousy or stinking or anything like that. He just worried about development. He said he committed to Florida because of a great relationship with the coaching staff, but he says that's not what he needs. He says he needs to be developed at the highest level, and he doesn't think that place is Florida, which is pretty telling in itself. He's really now just down to two schools. It's Alabama and Georgia. He told me that he trusts Glenn Schumann. He knows Glenn Schumann won't play a guy right away unless they're ready. And he looks at Brandon, right now, it's a spotless Glenn Schumann resume. Not just spotless, but it's a top-tier Tiffany's resume. When you think about, Monty Rice, you think about the incomparable Roquan Smith, Kay Crowder, Natrez Patrick, lots of Bulldogs in the NFL. And then there's current megawatt stars like Nakobe Dean, Channing Tindall, and Quay Walker. A couple of those guys who had to wait to play for Schumann, and now what they look like now is pretty stinking good. So it's really an interesting story, Brendan. I think the other thing we have to add here on the Shamar James stuff is he told me he's not very likely to make a commitment soon. Of course, that can change. These are teenage high school guys, but he wants to take the thing to early signing day, at least before a public commitment. More than that, anything else, he knows he has to visit Georgia and Alabama again. And, buddy, I tell you, this is just, I think Kirby and this staff, they're doing things right now that I don't even think I've even seen out of them before. Shamar James, man, did not even visit Georgia until the Kentucky game. And that was his first visit. He didn't even come through and see Georgia in the summer, even though he had Georgia in his top 8. And to see where Georgia is now, really going toe-to-toe here with Alabama for a top. And listen, this was a really good player for Florida even. He's a top 70 player. He's the number 8 linebacker in the country. Could play Will at either the Will linebacker spot at either Alabama or Georgia. So there's a lot to unpack there.
How about on the case of Julian Humphrey here, who not only has recently decommitted from Florida, but has also, I believe, on social media this week, hinted that he could be maybe close to a recommitment again at some point in time, too, in the next couple of weeks. How real is that between UGA and Humphrey at the moment?
Yeah, it's very real, Brandon. I think it's funny, even Shamar James put a red and black emojis underneath Jalen Walker quote tweet regarding Julian Humphrey's decommitment from Florida. He's a guy, dynamic kick returner, Brandon. I don't know if we talk about him enough of late. He's a 4.38. He was the fastest man at the limited skill opening finals out in California this year. He's got a 41-inch vertical. Could probably play a lot more positions in the secondary for Georgia rather than just a straight-up corner like maybe Jaheim Singletary, the other guy that's on everybody's mind this month when it comes to defensive back recruiting. I mean, Humphrey is a Blazer. I think there's recent viral social media clips out of where he's known he's making his mark with folks as a defensive back and a corner, but he took 2 kickoffs back in a game, back-to-back in the same game, which is really a telling stat for somebody that was already going to go play ball in the SEC and everybody knows about him, and he can still get that done.
Moving on here, you also had a really good story this week with Andre Green Jr., the 4-star wide receiver. And, for a while there was a lot of chatter about Luther Burden, and with good reason, right? Burden's a terrific player, 5-star variety, top 10 player in the country. We all understand that. But that shouldn't obscure the fact that Georgia has also gotten a chance to get involved with Green Jr. And yes, I'm sure you and I will talk more about Kojo Antwi again at some point in time too, although I believe that Antwi was back or maybe planning on being back at Ohio State. So I do, get the idea of that. But we'll probably talk about Antwi again. But Andre Green Jr. kind of also floats around right now as a pretty interesting prospect to keep an eye on. And in my mind, the kind of potentially dynamic receiver this Georgia program still very much needs.
Yeah, Brandon, a lot of things to say about this young man. First of all, I really, if pressed, I'm not sure who I would pick if I had to choose between Luther Burden and Andre Green Jr. because I think they're different guys, kind of different guys in the way that maybe a premium NFL receiver can put up numbers, maybe from the slot or maybe from the Z position, and then another guy can be an X receiver. Andre Green Jr. certainly conjures up memories of another Green that wore the number 8 and played in Athens. He's a guy that has really strong ball skills. And, Brendan, where this recruiting has gone, most people kind of written that one off. They thought Clemson, they thought North Carolina, maybe even Penn State. Because Green visited over the summer, and he took the official then, and if you really wanted to look at this stuff smartly, you had to expect, okay, Green's going to have to take another visit back to Georgia during the fall when he's visiting all the other schools unofficially to really stay in the hunt here. And it's funny, Green had a Zoom conference call yesterday, I believe, with Kirby Smart. Georgia is still recruiting very, very hard, even though they're the number 1 team in the country in recruiting and the number 1 team in the country on the field. And Andre is going to give Georgia, he told me that this week, he's going to give Georgia a very late unofficial visit. It might even be the last visit he takes before he makes his decision. He's going to visit Clemson. Now, Clemson is a team that was sort of painted in the media and a lot of reports as his dream school, but they were very late to offer, and I think that has been telling because they're just now getting a chance to come back to Clemson. Brandon, he's got a wild schedule. I think 6 or 7 of his home games in Virginia and Richmond, Virginia, they play him on Saturdays, so it's really hard for him to get visits. But he says after he visits Clemson, he knows he has to get to Georgia one more time to see things, and Georgia's recruiting him like as the missing piece, is that George Pickens type receiver that maybe we can't compare him to Green yet because Green is also incomparable, but I think we can compare him to Pickens pretty easily. He's that type of go up and get it ball skills, incredible ability you just really can't teach. And the thing I really like about him, Brandon, is he plays Connect 4 madly every night when he comes home with his dad.
Wow. And
those jokers are so competitive that they keep count on the notepad on somebody's phone. And at one point, he was leading his dad like 480 to 430 in terms of competitive Connect 4, if there is such a thing. And things lately have gotten so bad that his father has hid the method that they use to kind of keep track of the score between father and son, because that's
a dad's prerogative.
That's how dangerous.
As a father myself, I'll tell you that's a dad's prerogative to do that.
Yeah, it's probably so. Like
you can pull the shoot if things aren't going well.
Yeah, you just be letting Charlie win. That's what you would be doing, right?
Sure.
I'm sure Andre Green Sr.'s not doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's our On the Road, assisted by AAA with Jeff Sintel here today. And, of course, it's always fun to talk about the subject of recruiting and getting ready for a big game for Georgia against Florida on Saturday and being on the road for that. But it's also important to have other discussions there as well, which is reminding you that if you're a wage earner that's got folks to take care of, spouse, children, things like that, obviously one of the most important decisions you can make is the decision to have quality life insurance, the kind of thing that could help keep taking care of those that you love, even if you were gone. That's why life insurance matters. These are big, weighty decisions that need to be made, and putting them off certainly doesn't help your situation at all. You want to make the decision to get that in place to give peace of mind to those that you love. That's where AAA can step in for you. They are the ones to know when it comes to life insurance, because you can give them a call at 866-695-0222. You can stop by and see them in a local AAA office, or you can go online. That's AAA.com/life. AAA.com/life. One of their financial services associates can be there for you to explain the entire process, all the options that are available. And then you can walk out of that conversation feeling like you did the right thing, feeling like you did take a big step towards taking care of your family. This is what we got to do sometimes, right? We got to do the adult thing, we got to do the man thing, and or the woman thing, whatever else. But make the big decision to get the life insurance that you need. AAA is going to help you with that, and there's a bunch of different ways for you to get in touch on that. By the way, speaking of a grown man, certainly that's what Branson Robinson, the Georgia running back commit, looks like. And Jeff, you had a chance to be with Robinson again this past weekend. Also, a bunch of other top flight prospects as well. But with Robinson in particular, you know, his recruitment and his commitment when he made it to UGA was obviously huge. And like a lot of guys, once they commit and, you know, kind of move on to something else, it becomes out of sight, out of mind, at least a little bit. I don't mean that disrespectfully, Robinson. I just mean that, you know, news cycles kind of spin in a different direction. But checking back in on Robinson again this week, how did you find him? I know he's got the name Kamari Wilson on his mind a little bit, but beyond that, how did you find the chance to help folks reacquaint with Robinson?
Well, first of all, he somehow acquired a bit of an injury he's fighting through, and, you know, all jokes about, you know, Lex Luthor or Kryptonite, because the young man is built like Superman. He has a bruised Achilles he's been dealing with for the last couple of weeks. He's about 85%. Still playing ball, though, still getting touchdowns for Germantown. Somehow it ended up where, like, three guys landed on his ankle, and they twisted it, and he only resulted in a bruised Achilles out of it, which kind of in itself is another great Branson Robinson story about how strong this guy is. He man, I don't know if I've really talked to a recruit that really, to me, just, man, Brandon, he is madly in love with being a Georgia Bulldog. He told me a story, you know, when he was there for the Kentucky game, that was his first ever game visit inside Sanford Stadium. We're still hearing these stories because of the pandemic, where a lot of these anchor commitments in this class had still never, you know, they didn't get to visit at all until June, and now some of them are getting the chance to take their first visits into Sanford Stadium. And he told me, man, this is pretty telling. He gets back to his hotel room and kind of sighs. He's like, oh, well, got to pack up, got to go back to Mississippi, old, boring Mississippi. This young man, as much as we've ever reported on DawgNation.com, this Branson Robinson fella just can't wait to be a Georgia Bulldog.
I think he's going to be a huge fan favorite, Jeff. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to be the case. Let me also mention this, another guy that has the potential to be a huge fan favorite, or at the very least, I would say that the next 12 months will probably end up featuring a lot of conversation with this young man, one of the top couple of prospects in the country for the class of 2023. Happens to hail here from the Atlanta area. I'm talking about LT Overton, who goes to Milton and is a terrific defensive line prospect. And you gave us another one of these early previews of him before he takes center stage as a part of the class of 2023. But, Jeff, it is certainly not too soon to start getting fully aware of everything that's going to be going on with Overton.
I think that's very important for us to write that, because, man, the next 2 or 3 months for the 2023 class could be very, very telling. Very kind of like cornerstone guys could be making their decisions here. They're quietly going about their business. And, Brandon, I don't know, man, Kirby Smart, besides this stuff on the field, he must be living right, because Georgia got 2 visits from LT Overton this fall, and that really has changed the way he sees Georgia. He says there's really no other place kind of like Georgia's crowd, the atmosphere. He saw Georgia for a noon game. He saw Georgia the second time he came back. This is where I just kind of think Kirby's living right. Is of all things, Kentucky is undefeated. We get that. It was a game day game. We get that. It was a top 20 game. We get that. But they had to come back for a second consecutive home game because LT's mother, Eunice Thomas, was like a 3-time All-SEC volleyball player at Kentucky. She's a Kentucky alum, so she had to be back in Sanford Stadium to watch that game. And for LT, he got the chance to see it again. Georgia impressed him again, the way the defense plays. He says he's probably never seen a defense in college football quite like this edition of the Georgia Bulldogs. And these visits, Brandon, I think Georgia was kind of in maybe the chaser mode between a couple of other schools with Overton. There's schools like Oklahoma, Clemson, Texas A&M. A lot of schools have even offered him a dual scholarship in basketball and football because he's a starter, key cog on Milton's defending state championship basketball team in 7A. He's also been fighting off an injury. He had 2 fractures in his foot early this year, missed the first 3 or 4 games. But Overton, when he's at Georgia, now he's talking to Dan Lanning a lot. Dan Lanning was at his game last Friday night on the off week, and things we can honestly report that things have really heated up there between Georgia and Overton. Nation's number 2 overall prospect. Georgia ideally sees him as an outside linebacker type, a stand-up backer type for Lanning's room, and not where he's rated as a defensive tackle right now as the number 2 overall prospect in the country for 2023.
Well, speaking of the 2023 class, going to be fun tonight to be at Mill Creek High School. There's a ton of prospects in this game between Mill Creek and Collins Hill. It's probably the top game in the country for the weekend. And, there's a lot of curiosity for Georgia fans about what Travis Hunter may be doing on the sideline. I get all of that. But when it comes to the 2023 class, Caleb Downs, the guy we get a chance to see tonight on the Mill Creek side, he's had an incredible year, defensive back in college, but playing both ways for Mill Creek. And he's just one of a ton of top prospects we'll get a chance to see on TV tonight before we're on the road literally with AAA on our way to Jacksonville after that.
Yeah, a lot of good ones. We'll get a chance to talk to Travis and see how those Georgia visits went and how he's thinking in his comeback and where he's at with that. There's a young man that's catching a lot of buzz this week, Collins Hills, Asani Redwood. What a great name for a defensive end. He's got 14 sacks. He's got great grades. He's only been playing football for about 2 years, and he's a guy that's a senior year evaluation. I've been told that even Redwood's going to take a chance to go see Georgia at Georgia face Missouri on November the 6th inside Sanford Stadium. So that's a prospect that certainly gets some attention. Everybody mentions Downs. Brandon, the one player that I thought Georgia really should have gotten a beat on or really should have recruited harder in the last 2 or 3 years in state was his older brother, Josh Downs. Of course, the Downs brothers, their dad has an NFL pedigree resume. He played in that league. But then Josh Downs is really an uncheckable slot receiver. He's producing massive numbers right now for North Carolina. Actually, we mentioned Andre Green Jr. earlier in this segment. Andre Green Jr. is hearing the push from Josh Downs saying, hey, let's come be a part of something prolific in this North Carolina offense. Another school that's really tight there with Andre Green Jr. But, I mean, this Caleb Downs kid, he's going to do a little bit of everything. He's rated among the top 50 players in the country, comes from an NFL family. His older brother is already starring in NCAA football in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and that's going to be a very, very impressive guy to watch tonight.
It will be fun, Jeff. Thanks for your time here on our program here today. We'll see you at the field tonight and then on our way to Jacksonville after that. On the road, assisted by AAA. We appreciate your time.
Hey, Brandon, everybody drive safe. I've gotten a report that the St. Augustine Airport is already buzzing with folks.
There you go.
You guys have a great day today.
Sounds good, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Let's take a look around the rest of the league. This is SEC Through.
All right, quick update on something. For those of you live on video right now, I guess we had obviously audio issue with the Herschel Walker thing earlier. Such a disappointment. But we're going to try to do, I guess, going to repost the Herschel Walker interview. So stay close to DawgNation, maybe on YouTube, probably the best way to find that. We'll see if we can get that reposted a little bit later on. And now we'll get ready to cruise into the SEC, courtesy of our friends with Royal Caribbean. Great time to be back on the Royal Caribbean ships again on the seas. as a lot of folks getting that travel planned as we head towards the holiday time of the year, also into 2022. No better time to start thinking about taking your next Royal Caribbean cruise or possibly your first Royal Caribbean cruise. That is what Royal Caribbean is offering for you right now. And it's fun to have them back. It's fun to think about being a Perfect Day Coco Cay, the beautiful private island there in the Bahamas. It's fun to think about a short drive. You know, from here, Jacksonville's just a short drive on the weekend. Well, same thing. Just a short drive to get to Port Canaveral, probably the easiest port for those in the Atlanta area to get to. Quickly, 3-4 night cruises leaving out of Port Canaveral. Mariner of the Seas, that's a ship that I've been on many times. It's a recently amplified ship too. So the version of the ship that I have been on is actually not the same version that you've got now. It's been spruced up and looking great, and everything's terrific with that. So it's a good time to think about a cruise vacation, whether it's your next one or your first one. And obviously you want someone who knows all about it. That's why I invite you to trust the Cruise and Vacation Authority. They're good friends of Royal Caribbean. They're good friends of ours. UGA alumni run it, and it's always fun to support dogs, and that's what the Cruise and Vacation Authority is. So here's how you can get in touch. It's tcava.com. That's the website. tcava.com just stands for the Cruise and Vacation Authority. Also give them a call, 770-952-8300. 770-952-8300. Check them out today. All right, SEC through here, cruising around the SEC courtesy of Royal Caribbean. I thought it was kind of interesting a little earlier when one of our commenters said that he felt like Steve Spurrier doesn't like the idea of anyone kind of encroaching on his legacy at Florida, and so he's never going to be maybe all that happy for anybody that follows behind him, maybe Dan Mullen included. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I'm not quite so sure. I think it's an interesting thing to say, though. I did see where Spurrier was on the Feinbaum show, and on the Feinbaum show, Spurrier was talking about what was wrong. He was asked, hey, what's wrong with Florida right now? Now, he also talked about some of the Georgia stuff, too, and Mike Griffith wrote about that at DawgNation.com. I'll save that for Mike. You can read that from him. But the comment that kind of got my attention was, hey, what's wrong with Florida right now? He says they can't tackle. And there is something kind of valuable about that willingness just to say it like it is and speak it out, exactly what's going on. Spurrier doesn't hold back, and that's kind of exactly the way that has kind of gone for Florida this year. They have had a hard time tackling. It does put another spotlight on Todd Grantham, who clearly is under fire on the part of Gators fans. Dan Mullen taking some of that shrapnel as well, because Mullen made the decision to bring him back. And it also brings to mind for me, I remember being in the press box for the Georgia-Florida game in 2017. And Georgia's up big that day. They're on their way rolling to a 42-7 victory. And I remember Spurrier coming into the press box, and he was kind of being loud and not obnoxiously loud, but just he was loud enough that you could hear him talking. He was definitely bothered by what he was saying, his alma mater getting dragged by Georgia. And I remember, for me, how enjoyable it was to think about somebody who had brought so much just torment to Georgia fans over the years, now feeling tormented by seeing Florida on the wrong side of a blowout victory. I remember thinking that was a really pretty cool thing. So maybe we'll see some more sad Spurrier in Jacksonville tomorrow. I know a lot of Georgia fans would certainly love that. A couple other stories to get to here just for a moment. Thought that Matt Barry, speaking of the Paul Feinbaum show, Barry, the ESPN host, and he's also a big college football fan, he's got some opinions of the SEC, was on the Feinbaum show this week as well. One of the things he talked about, let me see if I can read this quote to you, because it probably works better if I just read you the full thing from Matt Barry on this from the Feinbaum show, what he had to say. Yeah, so here's what Matt Barry says. He says, I think this needs to be the time that LSU grabs a coach who can be there for a decade and compete for a national championship on and this is the important part of the phrase, annual basis. If you put yourself in a position with the right coach now, you can dominate the SEC West for years to come. Presumably what he means by that at the end is, one way or another, we're probably near the end of the Saban era, although Saban himself is certainly not making any concessions in that regard, but it still stands to reason that at 70 years old, he'll be coaching as his coaching career will come to an end sooner rather than later. But how about the idea that for LSU fans who've now seen their last three coaches win national championships, Ed Orgeron won one, Les Miles won one, Nick Saban won one, but the permanence for each of those guys had a hard time lasting. I would say for each, it's been for kind of different reasons, but that is the thing that LSU seemingly craves. Okay, who's the guy who's going to come here, stay here, build the consistent winner that lasts for a while? I don't know that anyone has ever had a poorer defense of a national championship than what LSU has had going off the 2019 season. Arguably, you can make case that the 2019 LSU team was the best of all time. It was certainly probably the best that has existed since I've been following college football closely. I don't know that any team could have beaten the firepower that LSU had offensively. But what's that worth to you in 2021 with Ed Orgeron now coaching as a lame duck and Joe Brady now in Carolina as the offensive coordinator, Joe Burrow now in Cincinnati as the quarterback, and the guys that were given the baton after that, they haven't done much to follow up on all of that. So Matt Berry, I think, speaks for a lot of LSU fans when they say what we're looking for is not the guy who can come in here and win, because LSU is one of the best jobs in the country. Everybody's going to probably win there, at least a little bit, but can you win and then stay? Can you win and then compound on that and win some more? Can you build something that lasts for a decade or longer? That's the one thing that LSU's kind of found hard to do, and I think that's an interesting point from Matt Berry. I'll also mention this here real quick, that David Pollack, I know, has kind of gotten some attention. I guess it was College Football Live this week. He made his pick for Alabama to win the SEC championship right now over Georgia. And a lot of Georgia fans kind of noticed that. The only thing I'll say about this, and we'll have plenty more time to talk about that in the time that is to come. The only thing I'm going to say about that right now is I think it does speak to the notion that I don't care what Georgia does the rest of the way in the regular season. And look, there's a chance that Georgia may be threatened at some point in time during the regular season. It's hard to go through a full year. For Georgia, this would end up being 11 consecutive games with kind of coasting and winning everything easily. That's a hard thing to do. So there's a chance they may be get threatened in the regular season. But even if they don't, let's say that Georgia wins its remaining regular season games the way that it's won its last, 6? You have to go back to the Clemson game to see a team really playing close with Georgia throughout the entirety of the game. So if Georgia's 12-0, riding high, and if the wins they've garnered since the Week 1 game against Clemson are all easy wins, I don't think that changes the narrative of what the SEC championship game is supposed to be. I mean, right now there are some doubters of Alabama. There are some that are questioning what really does Alabama bring to the table. But I don't think the doubts about Alabama are significant enough. I don't think the praise of Georgia will be substantial enough to change the fact that when Georgia goes into Atlanta in December with likely Alabama on the other side there is still a lot for Georgia to prove. And the majority of the analysts, by the time you get to that point, no matter what they're saying now, I believe by the time you get to December, the majority of the analysts are still likely to be picking Alabama there, to the extent that matters at all. So if you're a Georgia fan, you want to prove those guys wrong or see those guys proven wrong by the dogs in the field. That's what, as we said on Monday's show, that's what Saturday becomes about one more time. Georgia hasn't played in 2 weeks. And for some people, that can be out of sight, out of mind. Easy to forget what made UGA number 1 to begin with. But with a lot of measuring stick stuff going on right now, what Ohio State's doing, certainly the darling of the of the league, of the country, what Caleb Williams is doing now that he's been inserted as Oklahoma's quarterback, what Alabama not playing this Saturday, but is also trying to do in proving that they're still a part of the national conversation. Well, Georgia gets a chance to send a message against Florida on Saturday, and I would take that seriously, and we'll make that your SEC through. And very quickly here, before we run through a bunch of very funny, very entertaining golden shoes, let's also remind you about a really cool new thing from the Finished Long Drink. You've heard me tell you before about the Finished Long Drink, and you've heard me tell you that the long drink comes in 4 different varieties. There's the long drink traditional, which is a blue can with like a grapefruit flavor and a gin kick. There's the long drink cranberry, which obviously has the cranberry flavor, long drink zero, and long drink strong. Well, guess what? Some of you are saying, well, I'm not really quite sure which of those that I want. Do I want the cranberry? Do I want the grapefruit? Do I want the zero sugar? Do I want the long drink strong, which is 8.5% alcohol by volume? What if I told you could get all 4? What if I told you that the Finished Long Drink now has 8 packs that includes 2 different cans of all 4 varieties of the Finished Long Drink? You want to talk about a great way to make everybody happy that you're trying to please here this weekend, or maybe it's just for yourself and you want a little bit of taste of all 4 of them? That's what the Finished Long Drink has right now. Those variety packs that include all 4 varieties of the Finished Long Drink. You can find that by going to thelongdrink.com and put in your zip code, and you can find out what bar or what beverage store or wherever you can find out where you can pick up some Finished Long Drink today. It looks like a beer because it comes in a can, but it doesn't taste like a beer. It's a ready-to-drink cocktail right out of a can. You don't have to be a professional mixologist to put all this together. That's what the Finished Long Drink provides for you. So thelongdrink.com, you can find out where you can pick up one of these 8-can variety packs of all 4 varieties of the Finished Long Drink today. Really fun. All right, speaking of really fun, let's have some fun on the way out the door here with our golden shoes. And as you might imagine, on Gator Hater Countdown Day 1, we have gotten so many of these. So let's fly through them and give some due credit to some Georgia fans who are clearly having a lot of fun right now, both with the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, with hashtag JD to NYC. Just some terrific stuff. Let's roll through this right now. Here's the first one. Our buddy Mad Dog, and this is so cool. How about the old school house, like the farmhouse type look? That's the Gator stuff painted on it. Then you got the Georgia tornado blowing through here, and Mad Dog says a storm is coming to Jacksonville this Saturday. He gives you the Gator Hater, and Mad Dog's been so good at this all year long. It'd only be appropriate to have him involved in this today, and that is truly one of his best. Good job, Mad Dog, on that. How about our next one? Rambo sent this T-shirt that says, "So I made the Gators. I guess no one's perfect," and that's supposedly a quote by God, who certainly Rambo has the show 803 on Twitter. Very funny stuff there about maybe God regretting making those lousy, stinking Gators. Don't know if God feels that way, but I know I certainly feel that way. So pretty good stuff, Rambo, there on that. Josh Johansson checks in. This kind of stuff always makes me so happy. So the image you see here is of Josh and what looks to be a pretty good-looking breakfast there. I see some hot sauce and some eggs. I see some bacon and maybe a little bit of sausage underneath that. That looks really good. And on the TV screen across the room there, you see me doing DawgNation Daily, and Josh says, "Baby's napping. Braves won. Dogs play in Florida this weekend." And I get to open up. How about this for Mark Broussard at District Live in Savannah tonight? So that's a really cool thing. He says, "It's going to be a great week, y'all. Pre-gaming with a little DawgNation Daily." First of all, Josh, congratulations on the big musical moment there. That's a really cool thing, and obviously trying to enjoy a fun week here, and hopefully the Braves will continue their winning ways in Game 3 tonight, so that's great stuff. Rob McNew checks in to say, when you see a Gator coming down the field, who are you going to call? Jordan Davis. A little bit of a play on the Ghostbusters theme in honor of Halloween, and that is clearly a golden shoe-worthy submission by Rob McNew. Very funny stuff, and terrific there. How about our next one? Chase Smith responding to ESPN, who are putting out the 4 Heisman favorites, and Chase says, "You spelled Jordan Davis wrong," and he gives you the hashtag JD to NYC. Love the fact that Georgia fans are pushing this so hard right now. Chase, terrific job on that. Decatur Dog gives you a cool meme here, and it's also Halloween related. This one from N'Kobe Dean. It says, "Nightmare on Gator Bowl Boulevard, October 30th, 2021," and you better believe that Dean and Davis, because he also gives you the hashtag JD to NYC, you better believe all of those dogs and be doing some stuff defensively. Jermaine King with another one of his works of art. He's great at the comic strip type look here. So what he writes on Twitter is, "I've been saving this one just for the Georgia-Florida game, Golden Shoe Award Gator Hater." And there's like a Dan Mullen clown, and Mullen says, "You can't beat me. I'm the quarterback whisperer, an offensive genius, and the Florida fans love me." And Kirby Smart in the comic strip here says, "Wrong, Mullen. You're a clown that can't recruit. Your fans want you gone, and I'm here to stop you." That is great. And down at the bottom, he also gives you the hashtag Gator Hater, hashtag JD to NYC. Speaking of JD, how about, there's been a lot made of the Godzilla nickname. How about Godzilla here with the Jordan Davis jersey, the famous chain around the neck, holding the Heisman Trophy. This is great stuff by Russell Jafaris. I hope I pronounced Russell's last name. Maybe it's Jafaris. Russell, either way, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, but truly a Godzilla-like golden shoe submission. That's terrific, and thanks for making that hashtag JD to NYC stay alive. How about a couple more fun ones? Robert Morris writes in to say, "Have you ever seen an alligator make the surrender cobra with all those little arms?" No, you can watch on Saturday. For those of you who don't realize, the surrender cobra was the thing that got made famous on the internet a couple of years ago when fans are losing. They kind of do they're like shocked or disappointed. They kind of do the hands behind the head thing, and supposedly this looks like a cobra. That's the surrender cobra move. And so Robert says that the tiny little gator arms are kind of hard to do the surrender cobra. So that's pretty funny as a golden shoe. Arnold Santiago, who's got the Braves avatar right now, says he's riding with hashtag JD to NYC, Jordan Davis. And obviously our buddy Barrett Slee also making that case as a part of the CBS 24/7 sports family right now. So good to see more media kind of getting in on the hashtag JD to NYC train. I believe we have a couple more to give you here. Brian Whitehead, how about this? He says this is the sign that he's taking to the Paul Feinbaum show on Friday. Feinbaum there from Jacksonville. He says it's Dan Mullen's recruiting plan. TikTok dance video, wakeboarding tricks, Darth Vader costume, and yeah, that's about what Mullen's doing right now. He's doing a lot of silly things like that while Kirby Smart is collecting all the top-end talent. Brian, I hope you get that sign there on TV. You're obviously a very clever Georgia fan, and I'm sure you've got some great stuff planned for the weekend. Fanastic6 writes in to say that he has a son that says, "I hate Florida so much that I dumped my girlfriend because she's from Florida. Go Dogs." He also has a great poem. Now, this is true poetry right here. He says, "Georgia is red, Florida is blue. Dan Mullen's on the hot seat, and his season is through." That is artistic right there. What a great poem that is, and a great job by Fantastic Six on Twitter for that. Very, very clever and very, very well done. Bubba West also pushing the hashtag JD to NYC theme here, recognizing that Paul Feinbaum is also continuing to talk about that. And you love the way in which the national media is just getting involved with this, because obviously they get the big platform. They can help blow this stuff up even more. So I love the fact this is kind of getting out there into the universe. That's a great thing to be able to see. I think we have a couple more maybe. I guess this is the last one. So William Perry, who commissioned the very funny Mike Griffith artistic work we saw the other day of him on the party pooper side of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, shares this photo from the 2017 game. How about the family of Sony Michel enjoying Michel? Remember his long touchdown run against Florida there that day? How about the family of Sony Michel here looking over the shoulder as they celebrate that run? Nothing better than that. That's what it's all about. As much as all of us enjoy these Georgia games, we approach this from a fan standpoint or a media standpoint, but when it's your own son out there on the field, when it's your family that's out there representing your last name on the back of his jersey, having great success, there's something truly special about that, and that is really a great thing to be able to see. So to all the Golden Shoe submissions, those that were able to show, those we maybe didn't have time to show here today, really just appreciate you making this a fun year for me leading up to this game and a fun day today in putting some of these on display. So great stuff there. Now, this is the day we've all been waiting for. We started at, 300 whatever days on that. And obviously the mood around the Gator Hater countdown this year was a little different, related to the fact that it was a revenge game. Last year, at the end of that game in November, there wasn't a lot of good feelings. And you could explain it away by saying, it's a pandemic year or Georgia was injured. But the fact of the matter is, those reasons, as realistic as they were, don't take the pain away when you lose to a goofball clown like Dan Mullen, when you lose to those lousy, stinking Gators. Eddie knows it. You know it. We all know it. Saturday is a big day from the Dogs. It is one day away. Our Gator Hater countdown stands at just 24 hours from now, relatively speaking. Georgia gets to get its revenge against Florida. We get to celebrate the cocktail party. Georgia gets a win over its biggest rival, taking another step to what could be a magical championship season. Great stuff there. We'll see you Monday, DawgNation Daily, presented by Kroger. And on video, time now for our RS Andrews cool down, air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electric. We have done a lot of comments here this week. I will have to admit we're going to be brief today, and I do mean brief. We're going to try to fix this Jordan Davis thing and get some stuff up and running there on that. And obviously, in a celebratory mood, we'll take a bunch of your comments coming up on Friday. I should say on Monday. We're back on the show. So quick spin through the comment section today for the RS Andrews cool down, and a quick reminder to check out Go With The Flow, presented by RS Andrews, later on this afternoon in the DawgNation video channels, and we'll be back here next week. Guy Smiley says, I also need a Golden's Mustard Award in honor of the Tennessee Vols. That's pretty funny. Tim Tatum says, means more than revenge. We win. If Kentucky also loses, we clinch the SEC East, which is a very good point to bring up there, too. Very good point. Epic Robinson says, Kirby's going to keep the gas on the pedal against Florida. Boy, I hope so. That'd be a great thing to be able to see. I certainly hope that's the case. Let's see what else is here on the Facebook comment section. Always great to see James Crump checking in to say, once that Mullen stops trying to go after these 4- and 5-star players and focus on the top JUCO players, he says Florida's going to be back, LOL. James, that's very funny. And I'm glad to see you checking in our comment section today. Marcus Chafin says, here's Jeff Sintel with the recruiting news. Jeff, we're getting everybody. And certainly it seems like that's kind of pretty close to the case for Georgia fans, and hopefully it stays that way. Really very terrific. Jay Shipes getting excited about the game. Thomas Van Santa pointing out that I do have the Gator Haters shirt on. This is, I think, our 2019 version of the Gator Haters shirt, I believe. So I appreciate that. I've got the original version that kind of popped up around 2017 or so, 2016 going into 2017. I've got the version that we did. Actually, yeah, there's a 2016 version, a 2017 version, and this is the 2019 version. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Brian McPhail says, what's your pick for tonight? So I'm going to take the same page that Kirk Herbstreit, the rest of these guys do. I'll be happy to pick any game except just the ones I'm broadcasting. So no pick for me on Collins Hill and Mill Creek, but certainly it's a great game to pick to broadcast. I think it's going to be a terrific one there tonight. Scott Pete wondering what happens next year at quarterback if JT Daniels were to come back. I mean, I think it's too early to say that right now. I mean, obviously keeping a lot of quarterbacks in a program is never an easy thing to do, but these things have a way of working themselves out. Jonathan Aaron pointing out Jeff Sintel last night dressed as Han Solo says, was he running late for a meeting with Jabba the Hutt the way he was dressed? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Mike Harvey says Florida's a wounded animal, and this is their Super Bowl. They're going to throw everything at us closer than people think. 27-13 Dogs. Late touchdown fourth quarter to seal it. Mike, you could be right about that. Obviously, while on a show like this, I have to be honest and say that I feel like it sets up pretty well for Georgia. Certainly, I mean, the hope as a fan is that doesn't kind of set Georgia up for any kind of complacency, and I truly don't believe there will be. I think that, given Kirby Smart's fairly well-documented feelings about Florida, maybe Dan Mullen in particular, given the Georgia players' just desire to go out and win a rivalry game. You can watch this game, and you can see the tension that exists on the field. It's one of the things that TV and, listen, a lot of people would like to be the game that they can't be there, but when you are there at a game like Georgia-Florida, one of the things that you notice is the way in which when a game like this is done, there's a lot of celebrating. There's a lot of running around. Last year, unfortunately, it was Florida that was doing that celebrating. It's been Georgia in the past. But there are some games that you win in college football where it's a quick prayer in the middle of the field, a little bit of a handshake with a couple of the guys you may know, then it's back to the locker room. Not every college football game leads to a ton of celebrating. But Georgia-Florida is one of those games where there is going to be that lingering feeling there in the locker room. There's going to be some posing for some pictures. The Georgia players have always made a tradition of almost doing a Lambeau leap type thing into the stands, and it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it takes a feat of athleticism just to get up there because it's a very high wall that separates the stands from the field, but they like to jump up there. They like to sit with the fans, and that always leads to some great photographs. This is the kind of game where it's clear that there's great stakes here that have very little to do with the SEC East or winning the SEC or making the college football playoff. All those things are important, and obviously in one sense they're more important than just the result of a rivalry game. You get all of that. But at the same time, emotion has a way of making things sometimes feel bigger than they even are, and the emotions will be intense for a game like this. Kirby Smart has said he doesn't want to use emotion as a fuel because he says oftentimes, and I'm paraphrasing his quote, oftentimes you don't quite know what you're getting from that. Maybe you burn through it too quick, or maybe it's hard to regenerate that when you need to. He's discussed before about the feeling sometimes related to, do you really want to use that emotion there that way? But whether you intentionally try to use it or not, it exists. It is a real thing, and Georgia has a chance to use that as wind in its sails on Saturday to get a win against Florida. And I kind of think that's the way it's going to work out, because I do think, regardless of what any of us may think about the current state of Florida, the current state of Georgia, the fact of the matter is Georgia doesn't need a reason to want to beat Florida badly. And on Saturday, I believe that's what's going to play out. A couple of other DawgNation.com comments, and we're going to get off the air. Jacob Howell says, I've been stalking the chat since the beginning of the season. Figured it was about time to join the fun. Good morning, everybody. Jacob, I'm glad you're here, and I appreciate you doing that. I know a lot of people, 90-something% of the people that watch the show don't watch it live anyway. So that's people who don't really have a chance to comment. And then some of the guys and gals that do watch it live still prefer just to watch and not comment. So when you do kind of pop in here for the first time, I appreciate that. And to everybody, whether you're watching us live or later on or whenever else, just the fact that you tune in each and every day means the world to me. I really do appreciate that. It makes getting ready for Georgia-Florida fun. It makes the hashtags like JD to NYC fun. And we try to have a good time around here. We try not to take ourselves too seriously. We try not to take the subject at hand too seriously. We just try to enjoy, and thankfully right now things are very easy to enjoy. Matt Rukavina says, I don't care what they throw at us, we're out for revenge, and after a few punches, they're going to throw in the towel. Boy, I hope you're right about that. Philip Carroll says, my 4-year-old son woke up singing, it's great to be a Gator hater. Philip, that sounds like a child after my own heart right there. Good stuff. Brian Jones, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that, and we will be careful. Yeah, Jeff and I, to be completely honest, have gone round and round, back and forth about what the right travel itinerary is. We sort of have different ideas on this, but ultimately I'm going to do what he wants, because I do believe he is actually driving on this one. Randy Hall says, do you think Mullen's going to keep his clown outfit on for Halloween night? I wonder. I know a lot of Georgia fans will have him in a clown costume in their minds at the very least. Jermaine King also weighing in our comment section too. Great golden shoe from him a little bit earlier. Listen, it's a lot of fun, y'all. I appreciate it. We're going to have to go for now, but thanks for making this a great week, a great day. Looking forward to a terrific one tomorrow. Georgia, Florida, and Jacksonville. We'll see you there for our Kroger kickoff before the game. Our Dog Nation post-game show presented by the UGA Bookstore after the game. And listen, whatever you're going to do, tape up, buckle up, get ready, get loaded, get locked. Big one, Georgia, Florida. Could not be bigger for Eddie. Could not be bigger for all of us. We'll start a brand new Gator Hater countdown one way or another next week, but let's do it with a win on our minds. Thanks for being here for our R.S. Andrews Cool Down. Also, make sure you check out the Atlanta Journal-Constitution online at ajc.com. Great coverage of the Atlanta Braves shifting back to Truist Park here today. Also, check in throughout the day at ajc.com for an update on the weather and how that's playing out. And, of course, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on at Truist Park as you head through the weekend, both inside the stadium, around the ballpark, special guests, I guess, on the way in, and everything else. So there's a lot going on right now. So make sure you check all of that out. Good stuff. Gabe Burns, Mark Bradley, Michael Cunningham, the entire team there at the AJC rolling through and all of this. Check that out today. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday. DawgNation Daily presented by Kroger. Let's get a win against Florida, and let's talk about it then. See you guys. See y'all later.